All right. Good afternoon and happy December, everybody. We are gathering for the December Lunch and Learn for the WiscWeb service. So thank you all for attending. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Goins. I am trainer, UX guy, consultant, support for the WiscWeb team, joined by a number of the other WiscWeb team members. You'll hear from Jen in a little bit, who is our service lead. So let me share my screen two here. And so you should be able to see the slides. You can indeed see the slides over there. All right, so quick rundown of our agenda. This afternoon, we're going to run through a few updates and reminders. I don't know if we needed to leave our bracket and names in there. That was for us originally, but
That was for us. Well,
whatever.
it's on there.
Whatever. You know who's going to talk to you, I guess. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some updates and some reminders. We'll have some roadmap updates. I might actually lean on Jenna for that because she really is more in tune with the roadmap stuff that's coming in. Jenna will talk a little bit about the cookie issues. We have seen fewer of those issues coming through, but they still do come through. So we do want to make sure we touch on what it is that you're seeing, as well as how you can remedy it. Jen and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the common end user barriers that we see on a regular basis. Mostly it's not anecdotal, but these are things that Jen and I were thinking about when we were like, what kinds of questions do we get on a regular basis from most users, and what kind of things do we like to sort of guide people to do? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I will demo a few things for you all that have come in the some of the updates that we've done via theme updates, and then also a couple of changes from WordPress version 6.4 that are a little bit throwing people for a loop a little bit. So we just want to touch on what happened and sort of show you what that all is. UW theme release, we did that last Tuesday. It was a very small release, just a couple of updates that went in for that. I don't have my notes up. Let's see, do I have my notes up? Yeah, there, you can see my notes. We fixed some breadcrumb issues, bug related to image captions, underlines, links, PHP stuff. Mostly just bug fixes that went into that, obviously. This week, we updated WordPress, our WordPress version, to 6.4.2. With that, there came a couple of notable changes, which, again, I will demo down below, but I'll just state them now. You can no longer use the attachment page for media when you upload new media to your media library. It used to be where you could, when you uploaded a media item, it would create sort of like a post for it. That no longer exists. And then also the preview options have changed for pages, and that's the thing that I'll specifically touch on. User accessibility and user experience and accessibility guidance is available through the Center for User Experience. And I've got the Go. Can you throw that link? No, come back here. Can you throw that link into the chat, Jenna, please?
Yes.
That is a quick Go .wisc link to the Center for User Experience. One of the things that we run into on a regular basis when Jenna and I have office hours, or when we get some support cases that come in and we start to take a look at some sites, is there are lots of situations where we really think people could be there would be benefit from groups reaching out to the user experience experts to get some guidance on good design. I loathe saying good because it's objective, subjective. But and accessibility. Accessibility is the biggest issue that we run into across the board, because WordPress itself doesn't have anything built in natively to enforce accessibility. And a lot of times we get requests to do things or to provide options for things that create accessibility concerns. So we have to go through a bit of an accessibility process on our end. And then we have to try and make some decisions and then provide options when we can't allow certain things to go through for us from a service standpoint. So understanding some of that accessibility will help everybody out in the long run.
Um, a,
Go
a
ahead.
note on that one, I did create a post recently that was sort of based on something that someone brought up at the last Lunch and Learn, which was like, I'm new to WiscWeb. What are things that can help me as someone that is new? And so just in addition to the Center for User Experience, which is called out in this post, I created a post that just has a couple other like helpful links in it for folks who may be new to website building on campus. So I'll add that to the chat as well.
Um, just a reminder, we do rely very heavily on feedback via our feature request board. And I'll drop that link in there right now, right there. That's the KB doc that talks about our feature request board. A lot of things that we have implemented over the past, I would say, year have come from either directly from a feature request that users or groups have made, or we have taken a feature request and tried to um, create either some documentation or some guidance, or met with people, which is something that I do encourage people to engage with, as well as our office hours. Um, they come directly from our feature request board. So it's very important for us to hear from you, engage with you, and understand what it is that you're looking to do and why you're trying to do the things that you're trying to do. And that sometimes seems a little overbearing on our end, but as a service, we have to make sure that the decisions that we make benefit the service and not just the individual. And so we want to make sure that when we get these feature requests, we do our due diligence to make sure it's something that we can, one, implement, two, support, and three, that it will be something that will be beneficial to all users across the board. So whenever somebody reaches out, I always tell them, just make a feature request. And that way our developers can see it. They can chat about it. We as a team can chat about it. And we can move forward from there. So always want to encourage people to take advantage of that and engage with that. And then lastly, just a reminder, the fact that we are coming up on the holiday season. So we tried to pick a time frame of when support would be limited. So essentially, support will be limited between December 20th and January 3rd, just based on vacations that will happen. We will still have help desk to help out for initial support requests that come in. Any emails that come in that get bumped to us, or any emails that go directly to our team, the timing on that will be, delayed to answer those. So just be aware of that fact. And then site launch requests should have been done already. So site launches are going to occur up until when, Jenna? When do we stop launching?
So anything that comes in now between now and end of December will be scheduled for the new year. So
Yep.
we had that block. I think the 8th was the last time that
Yeah,
you
I
could
can
submit a
remember the date.
launch um, to be scheduled in December. So anything now is going to be scheduled for the new year. That's just because we have a lot going on in December. We have limited availability, and that gives us enough time to get all the pieces in place for scheduling.
Sure.
We do have a question here. I'm having trouble getting into the feature request board. Um, Am I the
Loaded.
only one? So I think the biggest thing to note, if you click on the link that Matt posted there, it links to a KB doc. Having trouble with the KBs. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
KB specifically. Huh. Um,
I mean,
that,
that'd be something I'd say reach out to me afterwards, because I kind of
yeah,
straddle both teams. So if you're having issues with the
makes sense.
KB, that's concerning. If you're having issues getting to things in the KB that are WiscWeb related, that's concerning. So they concern both of those things concern me. So
Yeah, I would
if it
say, and
persists,
if it was in GitLab, I would say the biggest thing that I notice is that when you click on that link to GitLab feature request board, there's a login screen. You actually have to,
oh,
you're
I'm
going to
already
auto
logged in.
log in, Matt.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but there's like a login screen that says username and password, and then right below that is a button that says login with NetID, and that's actually
Yeah.
what you have to click. But on the KB side, I've not heard issues. So I think, yeah, if you could reach out, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so what's on our roadmap? So obviously there are a few things on here that are that have been done. I'll kind of go through these, and Jenna just can chime in whenever it's just something that requires a little bit more in-depth conversation. So continued PHP cleanup. So PHP has been updated for the WiscWeb service to version 8.21. Thank
One.
you. Um, and with that comes a lot of things that we have to do in the back ends to make sure that everything works correctly with said version of PHP. So a lot of things happen in the background for us to, one, make sure things are working, but also two, it helps us improve a number of our processes and make sure that things are working correctly. Gutenberg discovery. So let me come back to the Gutenberg discovery because that's a broader conversation. We've been doing a lot of best practice guidance. That's something that we really want to encourage people to engage with us on. The conversation always comes around to, hey, Matt, show us what a good website looks like. And that's a very difficult thing for me to say because good is exceptionally subjective. Good to me will not be the same to you because a lot of times people go, Matt, we want to make our website pop. And I go, why? It's, to me, I'm a minimalist designer. I like things to be simple. Other people like things to jump out at them and to really call attention to a lot of things. And so good is always a difficult thing to qualify. So usually the conversations just come down to what can you do to engage your audience better? What does your audience need from you? So a lot of those conversations we do have on a regular basis, both Jenna and I, because it's just something it's consistent. It's a consistent conversation that we have about
I just got that
improvement.
question yesterday,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I get it from both the WiscWeb side of things, and then I also get it from the KB side of things about like how do I make my KB better? And again, that's always it's a different conversation than I think what people actually are looking at. Continued work on global CDN. So CDN is the way that we are trying to improve our service by delivering images, media via a CDN. I don't know what the CDN term stands for, Scott or Andrea or Jenna, if you want to pipe in.
Content distribution network.
Thank you. Content distribution network. Essentially what this does is it allows us to use a service to a certain extent cache the media so that pages load faster. That's something that we have continued to investigate to improve, mainly just to improve load times of your sites externally. Internally, you're logging into WordPress, things are going to be a little bit slow because you're logging into the service, but externally, we want to make sure your audiences are experiencing faster load time. So that's one of the reasons why we look at the global CDN is to try and improve that particular process. Professional development. So that's an us thing. But as a team, usually around this time of the year, because these sprints get tighter because of holiday time, we engage in various personal projects that we want to do for the service. I'll come back up to Gutenberg, but Andrea has been doing a lot of work with Gutenberg discovery for the UW, potentially using it for the UW theme. Scott does all kinds of server related caching and other types of things that I won't even try to explain, but he does a lot of things that try to help us improve the server. Myself, I'm looking at doing a couple of presentations next year for the integration / collaboration between a knowledge base group space and a WiscWeb site, and trying to differentiate between the two, but also show you how you can use both to better ends. Jenna, I don't remember what you're working on. I know you've done a lot of best practice type
Best
stuff.
practice. Yeah. So I'm looking over the survey results that we had from earlier this year. And then way back in July, we did a mural activity with you all. We also did the poll last time to find out what you want to see more of
Mhm.
in the Lunch and Learn. So kind of assessing all that data, and then looking at how we can start to integrate some better documentation for you. A great example is the post that I added to the chat here, which had guidance for new folks. So looking at doing more stuff like that. And Matt and I chatted about bringing you more listening sessions as well on various topics.
Yep. And then Andy and Jose are also doing things, but I can't remember what. So I'll let them pipe in if they would like to talk about what they're doing as well. Jose. I called on him while he's probably like mouthful of food or something like that.
You're
I
like, if you'd
am
like to talk.
not having a mouthful of food right now. No, I am doing a learning path for PHP. For those of you guys who don't know me, I work as a full-time employee at the Do It Help Desk, but I am embedded in the WiscWeb team, so I answer mostly WiscWeb support questions. And I'm learning the process of how they do things there. But I basically only ever really do support questions. I don't do much more. So I'm on a learning path to learn some PHP, so that way I can help the devs on the back end side as well.
Jose downplay. I mean, he is our support. He does help us with support. I'll say that. He downplays how important his role is. He is exceptionally important to our team because he does help us with the support aspect. We bounce a lot of conversations off of each other and a lot of ideas off of each other. So I don't. He's downplaying it. He's very important. Don't let him downplay his effort. And Andy, if you would like to share, please feel free to.
I am investigating some of the AWS setup that we have, specifically like the servers that we run and what we can do to either have like more powerful machines or have them scale better so that we're more resilient to high traffic times or bot attacks,
Yes.
things that happen all over the campus that tend to cause slowdown in our services.
Yeah, that's thank you for saying that. That is something that we talk about it, but probably not as often as enough. Probably not as often as we should. The English language. Scott and Andy both do a lot of investigative work on those types of things when we have service issues like bot attacks, like general slowness, any sort of outages that we experience. Those are the types of things that Andy and Scott are digging into, and then Andrea as well, digging into the logs of things. So it's a lot of things that you all don't see on a regular basis, which is why I wanted everybody to kind of chat about what they were going to be doing as well. But there's a lot of things that we do in the background to make sure the service goes forward. So coming back up to Gutenberg discovery. So for those of you who are not aware, WordPress, it's correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, it uses what is called block editing in the most recent versions of the WordPress CMS, the product itself. We use WordPress, but we customize WordPress using advanced custom fields, ACF, to subsequently deliver the UW theme and the sites that you see across campus. Gutenberg is what the original term was for the version of WordPress that had the block editing functionalities. And we, meaning Andrea, has been doing a lot of digging into how can we use Gutenberg successfully within our service, within the UW theme and across campus, to maintain our look and feel, but at the same time expand some of the options that you all as admins and editors would have with your sites. So it's something that Andrea has been working on quite a bit over the past, I will say, several months, but it's probably been longer than that she's been digging into it. So she just gave a presentation recently to our group and marketing, UW marketing, just kind of talking about like where we stand and thoughts moving forward. it's an ongoing conversation. We hope to poke at it a little bit more come spring, and start delivering like some test opportunities for people to give us some feedback on what's available, what could be better, what isn't necessary, things of that nature. So that's kind of where we are with the Gutenberg discovery conversation. It's there's depth to that we really are sinking ourselves into. New features, the image only carousel. Sorry, are these new features that are released, Jenna?
No, so this is our
Okay,
roadmap.
it's like,
So I
okay.
can
I was
chat
like,
on them if you
okay,
want.
go ahead. It's like, I don't think this thing is out yet.
No, it is not. So, but coming soon. So, there's a new feature that allows you to have just an image in a carousel. So currently, the image carousel option in the UW theme that's sort of in page has a side by side of like an image and then text to the right of it. And there was a feature request for something that could just do images so that you didn't have to have text in it. And so that's a really nice feature that will be coming soon that will allow you to um, have another way to display imagery on your site. We will demo that at a Lunch and Learn when that is ready. Another one that's really cool and exciting is the reducing padding between content layouts. So there's actually 2 feature requests that this applies to. We've had requests for minimizing the amount of space between content layouts. Sorry, my hands are below. Minimizing the amount of space. And then also we've had a request for having like a little intro overview that's like a 1-column intro and then 3 or 2 columns below that. So it kind of allows for both, which is really great. And then I'm just going to check the chat here. I saw that there was a
Yeah,
question.
there's a question.
Will image carousels within posts work? So any of the like page elements that we're adding are just for the page builder, which is just pages. There is like a native option for image galleries
Gallery.
in posts, but I don't know that there's carousels.
There's not.
So the answer for this is this image only carousel will not work for posts. The third bullet there, speaker field for UW events. I think that might need to be updated because I think we were able to get that out. So
That is it. That's why I was like,
created
are
this, and I
these
think
things
we were
that,
like still working
because I
on it.
knew that one was in
Yes.
because I was just demoing it for somebody yesterday.
Yes, we're gonna
And
show
so
that
I was
later.
like, wait a minute.
We were working on it when I first
Yeah.
put these slides together. But yeah, new features coming soon. We will demo at a future Lunch and Learn as we're able.
Yeah. Who made these slides? Let me tell you.
Me,
We know
it
what's
was
going
me.
on.
I'm sorry.
We are no, it's
I saw next month.
like I've been reviewing it all morning and I didn't think about it until
I
like
didn't even
literally
notice.
I'm about to read it. Okay. Let's go with cookie issues. Jenna, the floor is yours.
Yes. So I wanted to reconnect on this topic. We've covered this in the past, but it's still relevant as we're finding that some people are still impacted by this. So I'm going to do a little bit of a recap and an update of where things sit today. When logging into WiscWeb or other campus tools, that's sort of a really important note here. It is not just WiscWeb that's impacted, but you as editors might be engaging with WiscWeb the most. So that's where you see it the most. You may have encountered an error that says something like, you have too many cookies. There's a little example on the screen there. In WiscWeb, we've updated this message to have a little bit more info on what to do. So you can see there, it kind of tells you what's happening, and then it has links to how to clear your cookies. You may be wondering why you're encountering this more frequently or at all. And I'm going to attempt to bring you a little bit more information on that. And also we can do a little QA if there are any questions about it, because it is kind of a complex topic. I'm going to do my best to explain in plain language, but please feel free to post questions in the chat, or we could unmute if anyone would like to. So basically, to sum things up, we are seeing a lot of cookie issues on campus in general. What is a cookie? Well, cookies are small text files that store pieces of data when you visit a website. You may have noticed that many sites now require you to consent to cookie tracking, and this is because a lot of tools are using cookies for harvesting data. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something that is much more common now. So what's happening here is sometime around last fall, fall of 2022, we started noticing an uptick in cookie errors for users and for ourselves. This happens to us too. Um, it took a while to understand exactly what was happening, but we have surmised that potentially Google made a change around that time that caused this issue to become a little bit more impactful. By January of 2023, our users were starting to see cookie errors more and more frequently. And again, not just WiscWeb users, users of other tools across campus as well are impacted. Regardless of what sparked the issue, here's sort of the bullets on what we know. Web tracking tools like Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and Hotjar set cookies when you navigate to various campus websites. A lot of these tracking cookies are automatically set to the .wisc.edu top-level domain. Therefore, when users visit any subdomain of wisc.edu, like any of our sites, these cookies keep adding up. Tracking tools often set the cookie for 1 to 2 years. So the timeline for a user to accumulate a ton of cookies is very long. Over time, the size of the cookies becomes too big for the server to handle, causing a 404 error for you, or for, I guess this says error 431, error for users when they visit a web page. In order to view the web page, users must clear their browser cache and cookies, which removes the accumulated tracking cookies, tracking code cookies from their browser. Most servers have a cookie limit of 8,000 bytes. If a request comes in that is more than the allowed cookie size, the server rejects the request. WISC websites, MyUW, the knowledge base, and some UW extension websites have experienced this issue. This is based on, we've been chatting with different folks like, are you having this problem? And those are the teams that we have confirmed are also seeing the issue. And likely more services on campus have gone unreported. So basically the issue is bigger than just WiscWeb, as I said. What have we done to help in WiscWeb? So we want you to know that we're actively working on this and have been for the past year. I have a couple bullets on things that we've done in our space. We've updated the domain that Google Analytics cookies get set in the UW theme so that it does not use the top level wisc.edu domain. Instead, it uses the domain of the site with the Google Analytics tracking installed on it. We updated our system to display a more helpful error. By default, the error is not super helpful, so we did our best to like give it a little bit of information. We're sort of limited on how much we can customize it, but we at least try to let you know like you need to clear your cookies and here's how you can do that. You'll notice that the links, if you do get this error, don't actually link to like any campus documentation, and that's because if you're having this error, you might not be able to get to the KB either. So this links out to just like info in the wild, I guess, for the various browsers. We have also compiled information about this issue and shared it with various impacted groups. I'm going to take a pause there. Seeing a ton of chatter in the chat, so I'm just going to check in here. Yes, sorry, this link looks sketch, but is this error related? Okay, so it looks like that question was answered. Is this only happening on sites with Google Analytics 4 deployed? No, it can happen on any site, even if the site itself is not using any tracking tools, any site using a wisc.edu domain. Great questions. Continue to add your questions there and we'll try to make sure to answer them. This is a highly technical topic, so we'll do our best. So I also have a section on what you can do to help. I don't know if this is interesting, but I'm going to share it anyway. Hotjar is one of the biggest culprits of this issue as it sets the cookie at the wis.edu domain, and it doesn't allow you to change that. Where like Google Analytics, you can actually change that behavior. Hotjar is like, nope, this is the only way we're doing it. So Hotjar cookies are also numerous and quite large, which is contributing to users hitting the cookie limit more quickly. If you have Hotjar enabled on your site and you don't need it any longer, please, please, please remove it and only turn it on when needed. Or because this is one of the biggest contributors on campus, maybe consider not using it at all. I do recognize, though, that it is a very nice tool and there are folks using it, and I get that it's kind of like a bummer to not be able to use it. If you're using a tracking service that sets cookies, check their documentation to see if it's possible to set the domain at the site level. We're already setting this correctly for Google Analytics within our service, but other tools may not be configured correctly. You could consider an ad blocker for your browser to block cookies from being set when you visit websites, which will just improve your experience. And then most importantly, if you run into the error here on the screen that you see here that Matt's showing, just clear your all-time browser cookies and completely close down your browser and restart. So something that we're seeing is like we're having people clear their cookies and they're only clearing it for the past hour. And then also sometimes if you don't fully restart your browser, it's still hanging on to them. So make sure it's all time browser cookies and fully restart your browser. That's really the best way to clear things out. Yes, you might have to set that manually. So like it might default to past hour and you might have to actually click all time. All right,
So,
so I'm seeing,
so
go ahead.
Hotjar would be something that would be implemented via Google Tag Manager because it's not a service that we allow specifically within the UW theme. So you'd have to check as to whether or not you've created a tag to allow for it.
Yeah, and that's something like if you reach out, we're happy to try to troubleshoot if it's helping get that off of a site. If it doesn't need to be on there, we're happy to help. Okay, so next steps. These are really brief, but just letting you know that we are continuing to track this issue and look for opportunities for our team to influence the experience for you. If there are any changes that can be made on our side, we will certainly investigate those. And we're also continuing to document everything that we find about the issue so that we can share it up the chain. We've also shared with other teams. A great example is we chatted recently with the Eloqua team because we found cookies with that tool as well. So just sharing kind of what we've learned so far. I'll pause again here in case there are any questions. Feel free to unmute if you'd like or just post them in the chat.
I'll just say this too while we're waiting if anyone has any questions. The issues coming from people using this aren't necessarily WiscWeb users or WiscWeb sites or WordPress sites. So this can be anyone that is using any sort of like web service or web page that is using these tracking tools. Whenever anyone is using those tools, depending on how those cookies get set, those cookies can then carry over to other web services. So there are a couple mentions of that in the chat about like what specific services these are or where these issues can arise. So it's kind of everyone on campus. It's not tied down to one specific service. It's kind of everyone should be following best practices to avoid these issues.
Yes, and I did see there was a question in the chat about another error that is cookie related. It's an error that you might get upon logging into WiscWeb. Clearing your cookies the exact same way should help with that. That is a separate error code, a separate issue than the one that we're showing here on the screen. But it is something that we're investigating, trying to find the root cause of. So that's not something that we were targeting today in this conversation just because it's like an entirely separate thing, but we will continue to investigate. But if you do run into an error when trying to log in, try clearing those all-time cookies and restarting because that should help.
And there are other options that you can do as well to try and avoid these issues, and also just have kind of safer web browsing. If you do use ad blockers, a lot of these cookies do get blocked and not set in your browser to begin with. And also Firefox, I believe, and other browsers do have tools where you can have cookies locked down to like tabs or windows, and then also have them clear when you close your browsers down, which is helpful because then, these cookies won't follow you for 2 years.
It's crazy that it's so long.
Yeah.
All right. So, Matt, if you could advance to the next slide, we will move on, but feel free to post questions about the cookie issue in the chat if you'd like. But the next section that we're going to talk about is common end user barriers. So Matt and I chatted about this, and these were the 4 that we thought of that we see most frequently. I'm going to chat about the first 2 bullets and then hand things over to Matt for the second, or for the third and fourth.
Do you want to share what you have? Because I thought you had stuff.
I'm gonna send it to you, Matt.
Okay.
I'll let you know when I'm ready for that to show up on the screen. But otherwise, that was the only thing I needed to show.
Yep.
So several of you have asked for help on auditing your sites and building better websites. So we're really trying to follow through with that request and give you a little bit more guidance here. And today we're going to talk about a few things you can do to improve your end user experience on your site. These are based on the common barriers that we see, which are too much text on the page, there's no site search, poor image quality, and large top-level navigation menus. So I'm going to talk first about too much text on the page. So we are a research university. We understand that being descriptive is sort of part of that research culture. However, being too wordy can actually be impacting your user's experience on your sites. So now, Matt, if you want to show that example page, I have mocked up an example that has just a ton of text in it. And this is not uncommon. We see this all the time where it's got tons of accordions and tons of tab content, and the text is really, really, really long. So basically, I wanted to show that example so you knew what I was talking about. This is too much content for the user. So here's some tips for you. First, write in plain language. We've talked about this before, but there's actually some really great resources on campus and out in the world for how to write more succinctly. So there is a course on campus for writing in plain language. I'll try to find that and pop it in the chat here. So there's that link. And there's also a really great app called the Hemingway app, which Maria from the Center for User Experience showed us once when doing a demo for their group. But I've used it countless times, which I'll throw in the chat as well. It's just a nice way of understanding. Yes, and Nick said Grammarly as well. Yes, throw your examples in there if you've got them, because I think we can all use a little help here. It's
Yep.
hard to write in plain language.
The more options, the better.
Yes, but what I will say is the more you do it, the more you learn about it, and then it becomes natural, so it's no big deal. We'll all get there. So those are tools that you can use. You could also break up the page a little bit. So this page has a ton of accordions and tabs, and maybe those need to be separate pages. That's okay. I think there's sort of this fear of having multiple pages, but that's actually perfectly okay, and it makes the content more approachable. Third, get some user feedback. So I recognize that sometimes you, as the editors on the site, do understand the barriers. You know that that's too much content, and it's really about convincing others in your group why it is important to make these changes. And a great way to tell that story is through data. So if someone is asking you to add a bunch of content to a page, mock up 2 versions, a long version and a shortened version, and then set up time with a few users to get some insight on which is a better experience. And maybe that data can tell a great story that you can share with folks in your department to convince them why having it be a little shorter is maybe better. And there's always an opportunity to link out to more info too. I think that's something that could get utilized more. Fourth, after writing your content more succinctly, considered the new narrowed width option that we have added to the Udemy theme for making the text more reader friendly. I realize that that does actually make the page longer, but you'd be surprised how much more approachable it can make the text. We showed this example last time, but the brand.wisc.edu site has content that is more narrowed for one column layouts. So I'm trying to think which page is the best example here. Go to about the brand and yes, this is a wonderful example. Look at this content. I know there's a ton of white space to the left and right. There's a reason for that. It makes the content so much more approachable for the eye. I know it's totally different from what we're used to, but trust me when I say that this is easier for a user to read.
And you can see I have a very wide screen right here. So the effort, I guess the effort, quote unquote, the effort to read from here over to here, over to here, to do that, it becomes monotonous and it's not a good experience. Tightening these things up, keeping everything in line, I guess would be the right way to say it. It makes this easier to read for most of your users.
And
Also, just like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, worth noting here, right now we have the options to make the narrowed width kind of a global option that you can set. With the page builder updates that we're having for some of the padding and stuff like that, we are also making it so that you can apply those narrow widths to individual content layouts as well. So that'll be something that you can kind of turn on and off with more flexibility and control in the future.
Yes, and all I was going to say is like shout out to the UMark team, University Marketing team, for like an excellent website example. Brand.wisc is beautiful and it's a great example of what can be accomplished with the theme. Wrapping up this kind of conversation about too much text on the page, if you're not sure how to improve the length or structure of your page, please schedule time with us in our open office hours. I've said open labs. We don't have open labs anymore. We have office hours.
Call back.
I'll throw the link to our office hours in the chat here, but both Matt and I have office hours each week that you can schedule. That's a perfect time to have conversations about this kind of content strategy. We are happy to jam on ideas with you. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is that there's no site search. So I feel like searching abilities and too much text on the page kind of go hand in hand. The result is that you can't easily find what you are looking for. And within WiscWeb, we have two options available for site searching, and they're pretty easy to enable. In the customizer, you can check a box to enable the search box on your site. This is such a helpful tool for your end users. At the very least, consider toggling on the basic WordPress search with that checkbox. It's the default WordPress search, which is a little bit different, but it is better than having nothing. If you can also take it a step further and add Google Programmable Search. This will be a more all-encompassing search for your site and includes things like PDFs that were uploaded to the media library. We have documentation for that for Google Programmable Search here. There you go. But yes, turn that on if you can. And I'll hand it over to Matt for the next.
I'll also reiterate for those of you who use a website and a knowledge base site, I strongly recommend activating the plugin, the KB site search plugin that we have for WiscWeb, because of the fact that you can have both searches happening. So content within your site as well as content within your knowledge base as well. Okay.
And I don't know if Nick's comment is about me because I am rambling, or if it's about the content on your page.
It's the content.
Cases,
no.
Yeah, we could be
it's absolutely the content. He's speaking from my heart about the whole don't answer questions no one asked, because I have that conversation often as well with like, I have all of this to say. Why? It's no one's no one's worrying about it. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about poor image quality. I don't have good examples of this, and I don't want to specifically call out individual sites where I see it. So I'll just kind of touch on the concept in general. A lot of times I will see people who will take images that either they have been sent or that they have pulled from external sources, let's say Facebook, for example. And those images are a certain size, a certain height and width. The UW theme will say specifically, but it happens across other types of themes that you might use in WordPress or other content management systems. They have very specific and predefined height width ratios that you want to have the minimum of, so that when you put those images into particular page elements, most notably, I see this issue coming up with faculty staff images as well as the hero image. What happens is those images have to expand to meet within the UW theme to meet the minimum width requirement. And so what happens is I'll keep this up even though this isn't the issue. This is a 1600 pixel wide. Let me move the chat over here so I can see it in my line of sight. This is a 1600 pixel wide space up here. That is what our requirements are for the hero image. A lot of times people will take images that are 1200 pixels wide or less. And what happens is the space has to be 1600 pixels wide. So the UW theme is going to stretch that image to meet the 1600 pixels wide. So already there's one stretch happening. Because it's trying to constrain the proportions, it's also going to increase the image size vertically as well. So now what's happening is this image that looks good at this size has all of a sudden blown up to this size, and it pixelates it, blurs it, makes it look really bad. And people, will put those images into their hero areas. They'll use those types of images in faculty staff images and things like that. And don't, I guess is the bottom line there. If it doesn't look good, you have to be critical of the work that you are putting out there. And again, similar to what Jenna was saying about the too much text, the type of text that you're putting out there, you have to, it gives you leverage to say, no, this isn't good. If somebody's saying, no, I need this out there. There are other ways to present that content that isn't making it look bad. But when you make it look bad, speaking as someone who is exceptionally critical of websites, when I look at a website that has bad imagery, I start to question the quality of the website itself, because that's just me and that's what I do. I am judgmental. I apologize. But you want to make sure that you maintain good image quality so that it maintains the look of your site. Yes, also true, Nick. I even though I know it's a common mistake, I will see sentences that have the spelled TEH, and it'll just like run it through a spell checker, just really quick. Little thing, but drives a person like me nuts. I do have some KB documentation out there. .edu/WiscWeb. Should have had this up already. Photoshop. Let's just say image. Point. Okay, so really quick, here's the image size recommendations for the UW theme, WiscWeb specifically. And then here is just a real quick Photoshop rundown of how to use Photoshop to reduce. Oh, nope, that's file sizes. Also important, but that's not the one I was looking for. Photoshop. Using Photoshop to crop images. So using Photoshop to crop images there as well. Okay, let me get back to what I was saying. I don't know what I was saying. Don't use bad. Oh, large top level navigation. So I'll use Jenna's here as the example because she does have a large top level navigation here. One of the things that I have seen amongst a number of sites is the fact that people are trying to squeeze in 3-4 word page titles into their navigation structures there. And it really throws off that top area because it starts to take up more room, one. And two, because of the way that these align, it will sometimes break the words up weirdly. And so now you're making a user work to try to understand what this is. So, Jenna's obviously has these up there as demonstrations of things. But like I look at this and I go policy library. Instead of policy library, I would change that to say policies. Add search box anywhere, search. Button cloud, buttons. Website examples. Try to tighten up that top level navigation so that it's easier for a user to visually scan what your navigation structure is like. And again, yes. Yes. I don't know. There's part of me that agrees with you, Nick, but also there's part of me that is like, some things are acronyms that are so very common that they're okay to use. But when it's acronyms that are specific to a particular site that not everybody uses, I wouldn't do that. I would introduce them before I started using them over and over, and I wouldn't use them in the navigation, certainly. So this is one of the things that we wanted to touch on because we do, I said Nick, and acronyms. You made me lose my train of thought. We do see these pretty often, and it's something that I really do try to stress to people when I meet with them. And it's something that I stress regardless of what our conversation is going to be like, is I'm always going to talk about things that I think are doing you a disservice on your site. And again, these are the types of conversations that Jenna and I want to have with people on a regular basis on, again, good is always a difficult thing to demonstrate, but bad, quote unquote, is easier to show because there are lots of things that are not proper web design etiquette and not good user experience design as well. So we talk about that often when we have these conversations. So again, tighten things up. You don't have to fit everything up here. Fit the things that are of most importance up here that you want people to get get access to quickly. But again, you have your utility links up here. You can always use on-page navigation as well. So, try to think of different ways to deliver links to your users than just trying to cram everything into the navigation structure there at the top. Okay, that was it.
We're down to 3 minutes here, but we have a couple demos, so we should,
that's right, demos. Okay, hold on. All right, dun, 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 dun. Let's move all of you lovely people over to here. Let's share screen one. Share Darcy Blows, maybe, I think. Right, yep, okay. So really quick, one of the demos that we have is the fact that we allow for ICS downloads within events. When you create an event, there is the ability to add to have the download event option. It will download the ICS file. So we're doing this so that people can expand the ability to add certain events from your site to their own personal calendars. We know there are lots of other requests out there to improve this experience, but this is one that we wanted to make sure that we put into play so that you could at least direct people to this using the link up here. And then they could add the event to their own calendars by clicking on this download event ICS option here. Go back up real quick. There we go. Okay. Snaps to Andy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'll throw the KB in the chat for that.
Okay, thank you. Snaps to Andy for working on this. This is the first big thing that he started to work on joining our team. It has been a thing for him, and he has done great to get to the point where it is available, because there's lots of weird WordPress stuff that he had to work around as well to make this work correctly. So good job, Andy. And then lastly, the preview. I don't really need to show you too much of the media stuff, but In the past, there used to be an attachment page link in here when you uploaded media to your media library. It no longer exists. It's now just you get the link to the actual direct file itself instead of the attachment page.
One quick edit on that is that current sites will still have the attachment page. It's brand new sites that will add in the future that will not have an attachment page. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you can see it.
I'm confused by that. Sorry.
Matt,
I thought it would be something that would backtrack to all sites.
We do have a question in the chat. Sorry if I missed this. When will this ICS feature be activated? It is actually already active. So if you go to UW events, Matt, and then go to settings.
UW events and settings.
And then down below at the very bottom is a checkbox to enable event downloads. If you check that, go ahead and check it. There's two different styling options. That was based on some user feedback. We're really trying to amp up the user testing that we do with new features. So we were able to connect with a couple folks on this feature, and some wanted a button, some wanted a link for various reasons. So we offer both, and you can choose whichever style is best for your group. Do you want to show the speaker field as well?
Yeah, so if I go to, I'll just
you can create like a new event.
Yeah, I'll just create a new event. Dun, dun, dun. A new post. Sorry, I'm going over. If you have to leave,
yes,
I'll
if
put
you
the
have to
video
jump
up.
off, we'll make sure that the recording is up.
Okay, so event start data, we won't worry about all that, but at the very bottom of the event, there is now this field that is the author guest speaker name that will show up as part of the text at the top of the page below the event title. So that if you are including a speaker or somebody coming in to speak, you can add them to the event itself proper.
And you can also toggle that on for the list view that is available via the page element as well.
Okay. And then last thing is just to touch on the preview of functionality. So in the past, this preview option existed over here where you could tinker. Hello. The ability to now preview. Michael, that sounds like a feature request. Yes. Michael asked, can we get a speaker bio URL field as well? Again, I would say that'd probably be a feature request to add that functionality. Anyhoot, I've saved this as a draft. I can preview. What happens now is you can't preview updated content in a draft page until you save it again as a draft. So, if I do hello world, this is a sentence. Oh boy, Matt just misspelled sentence on live TV. If I click preview, now nothing shows up because of the fact that I'm making these changes. So I have to do save draft and then do preview. And there she blows.
Yeah, and that's related to the WordPress core
It's the WordPress update.
I'm going to throw a little link here in the chat that shows, it's a video that shows like the before and after experience. So in the first part, I'm showing how it used to look, and in the second part, how it works now with that preview.
Yeah.
It looks like, yeah, any chance speaker bio. Is there a reason the speaker field couldn't or shouldn't be used for something else, say an event subtitle? I mean, generally, I would not recommend using fields for things other than what they're intended for, just because that can get a little hairy in the future. So I wouldn't recommend it because that field could change at any time and be different or function differently. And then you're going to have to go back and do a lot of cleanup. So like Matt said, I think submitting a new feature request is the best way. Reminder on feature requests, if you upvote anything, please, please, please add a comment with a link to your website and how you'd use it, so that we can both tag you in any follow-up and better understand how you would use the feature.
Yeah. All right. That all being said, I will stop the share. I will stop the recording. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And we will stick around for any question and answers for those of you who have any questions. Goodbye.